Let's talk about the Montreal Canadiens as I turn some lights on in here.
Montreal Canadiens. Yes, what do you want to talk about?
But like,
Jean Beliveau's wife was at Game 3, looking fantastic and regal and beautiful.
absolutely. I became very my interest in these series really waned. It went from Montreal, then I went to Tampa, Long Island, and this officiating, there's only so much you can say about that hasn't been said, but
Like,
it's becoming a problem.
Yes.
It's becoming a big problem, and officiating is it's like a strike zone in baseball. It's gonna vary. It's gonna vary based on who's playing, how the game is being played, and I get that. We've accepted that. But in Game 3, which the Habs won, they came back and won that one. Josh Anderson realized remembered he could score goals. He goes out, he gets 2, he gets the game winner. But right before that, Corey Perry has been sliced and diced by one of the most egregious high sticks. In terms of playoff high sticks, it's up there in conference.
Was that a high stick? Okay, I'm sorry, but was that a high stick or was that the puck hitting his face?
I thought it was a high stick.
I don't know if it might have been a high stick. I think the egregious thing was in Game 4. Okay. That was the big like what it was in front of. It was in front of Lander, and Chris Lee is just looking at the play. A Montreal player, like they're in a scrum, but the Montreal player just gets straight up punched in the face.
Which
like
we know a
roughing.
thing. We know a thing too about.
We know a thing about like a beloved member of a team getting punched in the face 5 times, who's like pretty much a Lady Bing winner at one point. Should have been.
I did look up. We had a good conversation on the way to you buying an Elias Pettersson black skate jersey.
Finally got it.
But we had a good conversation about context in general. There is context to that clip, and there was. The Habs were doing just as much rough stuff prior to that. But when you have a moment where your referees are watching right there and nothing is happening, it doesn't matter what's happened before or what's going to happen after. In that moment, you have clear as day on multiple cameras in the building. You have Chris Lee staring at it and kind of chuckling at these, getting punched in the face in a series where you're already not calling things, where the Vegas Golden Knights are getting most of, if not all of the bounces in terms of power plays and opportunities. It's a terrible look for the league. You spend your entire intermissions. If you're one of the good guys, you are saying that this is bad officiating. And
if you're Ron fudging MacLEAN, there you go, Ryan Schaap's father. You're a beaut. Happy Father's Day. If you're Ron fudging MacLEAN, like. I'm sorry. You just need to decide at one point. I understand the idea of you need to keep a certain physical edge or whatever to the game. You need to allow the game to have a few of these little rough and tumble, like an edge to it. Right?
Yeah, we're watching right now. We're watching Clutterbuck with Pat Maroon.
I get there's a scrum. That's great. Okay?
And it's a hard job.
It's a hard job,
and they do for the most part, they do a great job.
They
on the grand scheme of things, 82 games in a year, minimal problems. It's when they when they think that they are the conductors, when they try to determine what a game is. Now, yes,
this is the problem. When you get into the playoffs and you start dictating what a game is, teams can then take advantage of that. And it's really hard to, as a team, on that day, in that period, adjust to what a ref is going to think what the game should be.
Yeah.
And then other teams can go and take advantage of that. So hits that were called, the last game are called now, or the period before are called now, and all this stuff. Or you could say, okay, there's a leniency to little play, like if you want to have scrums where you're getting a little physical and jousting and pushing, that's fine. Mm-hmm. If you straight up go and punch a player in the face, that isn't boys will be boys. That's a roughing penalty. It's just roughing. You want to be in a scrum and you guys want to like talk starch to each other. Look at that. I'm not swearing. You want to talk stuff to each other.
You want to talk shit to each other. You want to trash talk.
Ryan.
But like,
Sorry,
and that's fine.
Shop.
But I'm a big fan of when when there's bullshit after the whistles.
Yeah, it's fine.
Or when there's a scrum and the referees decide, I'm taking one on one team.
Yeah, and then one on the other.
And if you want to keep doing that, we're going to keep doing
We're just going to keep doing this until.
But that doesn't happen. And then what you have is these referees. I'm literally watching the weird conductor in Whiplash being like, this is not my tempo tonight. I want a angrier. And it just, we're a Vancouver-based podcast, and I'm seeing I'm having deja vu. I'm having PTSD about things that you saw. How many fudging times have we had this exact same conversation? Either call nothing or call the goddamn rule book.
So it's really funny that you bring up Whiplash because the idea of a conductor. So conductor is actually so incredibly important because their job is to dictate the game. They are part of the performance. They are part of the piece. They are the people that shape and chisel and shift emotion and change within a performance. The problem with refs is that they think they're that, but they aren't. They are a
referee. They're literally
a referee. Referees are the dads who drive you to the game.
Pun intended.
God bless them. But when the dads start deciding how, what you're going to wear to the show and how the band at the show is going to play and, how many drinks you're going to have at the show and all this stuff. And then it's like, well, what's the point in, having these players play this game? If the game it's just insane. So this whole thing with the performative art of officials is nothing new.
No, it's not.
This is Stefan Auger, Chris Lee, Mick Magoo, Bull Starch.
Somebody on Hockey Reddit, God bless their soul, did a deep dive into Chris Lee and the way he calls games against the Habs, and he loves penalizing the shit out of Montreal. I imagine Peter Laviolette had something to do with
Montreal
that.
Typical.
Yeah, so he said, "I'm gonna do Laviolette good. I'm gonna make sure that those Habs get penalized."
And I'm like, okay, it'd be great. How about you, instead of using Ron MacLean as being their sword and shield, because Ron MacLean has carte blanche to rip off Canadian poets and bank it off as his own, and having this thing.
Hey, you ever coach men's league? It's tough.
Oh, it's tough. I'm a level
senior men's.
No, you guys don't understand. I'm a level 3 referee, and the spring autumn chickens of the Saskatchewan prairies blows hardest when the boys get out to play. Fudge you.
And it's a good life if you don't weaken.
And it's a good life if you don't weaken. And we're going to go and we're going to sing the praises towards the ice and the great game. What are you talking? And CBC gives this man carte blanche to defend all this. I'm sorry, since we're on this train, we're just going to get to it. So Elliot Friedman.
it's your show.
Oh, no, it's our show, baby, but I'm on one. Elliot Friedman, I'm just going to say this here. The future of Hockey Night in Canada is Cassie Campbell, Kevin Bieksa, Elliot Friedman,
and David Amber.
I love David. Give Dave Amber the Ron MacLean chair. Give Dave Amber. He's done everything you've wanted him to do. Give him the chair.
You know what? And I'm noticing this year, it's now Ron and David, or Ron and Dave, or Ron and DA. There is the transition. We are watching it. It is unfold. David Amber is getting more responsibilities.
Good, he should.
And he's getting, his name is being mentioned in the same breath as Ron MacLean. Yeah. And listen, Ron MacLean's fine, but he sucks.
No, Ron MacLean is not fine. I'm sorry. I need to preface, I love Ryan Schaap. We're not getting into an argument. Don't worry. I love you. Look, it's not going to happen again. The problem is, it was a few days ago, Elliot Friedman brings up this, this is the crazy thing. Elliot Friedman is talking about how he's getting texts from people about the Chris Lee incident. Right?
A lot of texts
being like, yo, this isn't the first time this has happened. What's going on? Whatever. This is Elliot Friedman. He's the one person in hockey, at least in hockey media, beyond, let's say Chris Johnston and Bobby Margarita
Elliot's number one. Bobby Margarita's semi-retired, and his podcast isn't as good.
Yeah, well, he's living the best life. Okay, and then he's bringing up and questioning, being like, he's questioning refereeing, which he absolutely should. He absolutely has the platform, the power, and the open-mindedness to do so, because that's what everyone at home is doing. What does Ron MacLean do?
I got to cut you off there. These are referees. They are esteemed members of the NHL.
I will take a chair and just WWE, just back of the back, and just be like, Austin. Okay. He comes, this is preschool. He's like, and this is what I love about this. I'm sorry. I know I want to give you the platform, but this is what I love about Kevin Bieksa. Ron MacLean is like, just going to, you know what? Anyone that agrees with that, put up your hand. Does anybody agree with that? And then, so this is the problem. So it's Cassie and Kelly.
Have they played, last time I checked, those two people have played incredibly important games at incredibly high levels, if not the highest levels.
They do. So the problem is Kelly and Cassie don't really understand what Ron is doing.
Yeah.
Kevin does. Kevin's like, oh, are you trying to island Elliot right now? You're trying to put Elliot on a lonely island. Kevin just immediately puts his hand up and he's like, no, actually, I think what Elliot's saying is right. And then Ron MacLean, like a little turtle, just goes back into his little shell.
Yeah.
Because, Kevin probably had a talk from CBC being like, hey, Ron's in his room. He's listening to Hallelujah. He's really down, man. You can't talk to the golden goose like that. I'm sorry.